me know how that is. That'd be cool to hear.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the bands that you have played in. Let's talk about the gear you play on. So you've been playing Drum Workshop for a while now.
I have, yeah. DW. I grew up playing DW. My first real nice kit that I ever got was a DW, and every company makes a good kit, but I think it's just what you're familiar with. And I love DW, man. They're such good people and such a great company to work with, and they've been awesome to me, and it's amazing. So yeah, I play DW drums, Sabian cymbals, ProMark sticks, Remo heads, and there's I don't know if have you heard of Drum Tax?
Yes, I have.
Which is an awesome company as well. I know the owner very well, JC, and he's such an awesome guy, and it's such a great thing. Like those things are I don't know if you've checked them out at all, but they're pretty unreal. They're pretty perfect for what's needed for drums. It's pretty amazing. One thing that
anybody who comes to a Carrie Underwood is going to notice is the unique setup of your drums as well. Where did that kind of come from? Yeah, I mean, you play with a floor tom as your front rack tom, very low and tilted, and same with your floor tom on the right-hand side. Where did that setup kind of come from, and how did you become comfortable with it, I guess?
Right. I like I said before, I didn't have lessons. I didn't really have many people around me that close to me that really influenced me. So I wish I had a really cool answer for that.
It looks cool. I mean, is that cool enough?
Well, that's the thing. I wish I had a cool answer, but you know what? It's comfortable. And I preach that, if it's comfortable, if it works for you, who cares what it looks like? Who cares, what this guy says about it, saying, oh, that's not right. That's not how it's supposed to be set up. And it's truly just comfortable for me. I grew up, I always played pretty flat. My drums were always all really flat. And I lean over the drums a little bit. I kind of lean quite over the snare drum. And so when I'm playing, everything feels pretty flat to me. The second floor tom feels a little bit tilted, but again, I think it's because of the lean that I do over the drums. So, and then when I get up and look at the drums, I go, what's going on? These things they look like a disaster. So I don't know. It's what works for me and it's what's comfortable. So I've just kind of stuck with it, and yeah, it works. It works.
The other thing I noticed visually is you play very big cymbals as well, and which is very not common, I think, in country, and yet they sound great when you're playing. And what was the reason behind playing such big cymbals? Anything?
I don't geek out on drummers too much, but Abe Laboriel Jr. is like
God
to me, one of the most amazing. Yeah, like
yes.
And so he's one that forever has kind of influenced me with drums. And he's always played big cymbals. He always plays Peisty, the 808s or whatever they are, and I loved that. So I think that's where I got my first idea of trying to make cymbals. And what's crazy is I've always played Sabian, and they never made big cymbals. Them making big cymbals kind of a newer thing, and also just obviously having the endorsement, they were awesome enough to make some big cymbals for me. But I used to take 3 ride cymbals, like different thickness ride cymbals, and I would use 2 of those as crashes and 1 as a ride, and because I just love the feel of a big cymbal. I love in a big arena or outside in a big field or wherever you are. To me, it just works. It's a feel thing, but it's also, I think it's become more of a feel thing for me. But initially, it was more of a sound thing. It was just big, huge drums, and that's why I play floor toms as well. It's like I just love big drums, big feels, big fills, all that type of thing. The busy stuff is really cool, and all the chops is so cool, so fun to watch. But for me personally, I just love huge drums. So that's kind of where the cymbals and the toms and kick and everything stems from.
Now, you don't play with any washers or anything, any nuts on it, do you? They're loose?
I don't. I don't.
Is that because of a feel thing though? Like, so you can feel it kind of washing, or?
Absolutely. It's because of, I used to loosen them as much as I could. Then I go, why do I even have the cost of these on here? Because it's a feel thing. It's a timing thing. It's when they come back to you where they are, and once you hit it, and it comes back to you, and you hit it again. It always worked right for me to just have nothing on the top of there and let them kind of flow how they want to flow.
Do you play to a click track or no?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like all the time.
I'd say 98 or 9% of the time. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, how important do you think it is? Like, I mean, maybe you're doing it because you're running maybe tracks as well. I'm not sure, but do you think it's important for a young drummer or any drummer to play with a click track?
I'm so glad you asked that. I think it's the most important thing. It is key. It is key. It is 100% key. Like, you can have chops for days. You can be able to play this fill. You can be able to do this. If you can't play with a click track, then you're going to get in trouble because, I think there was a day where it wasn't as important, and I appreciate that. I think it was a different time in music, but I think nowadays it is, as a drummer, the most important thing you could possibly do. It's not fun to practice to. It's not fun to work on, but once you get that locked in, once you nail that down and it's second nature for you,
right,
then it's something you don't have to think about. It's just there. Even when you're not playing with a click track, you're still, there's an inner clock that's going, and it's you playing with the click track all the time and locking it in. I think it's 100% the most important thing you could possibly do.
Have you ever had an issue with it playing live? Something happened, or does that never happen?
The only issue would be is that, the computers crash or whatever. But again, like I said, it's having it all the time it becomes second nature. So you lock in and go for it, and it comes to you as what's natural, which is really cool.
We're talking to Garrett Goodwin, 9 years now on tour with we'll call her legendary now because she will be one day, Carrie Underwood. You've been to Europe, now you're still busy on this tour, and we appreciate you taking a few moments to speak to us. Let me ask you about the physical and mental components of playing drums on a tour like this. Do you go to the gym? Do you run? How do you keep yourself prepared mentally and physically to do this day in and day out?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to stay in shape in a sense. It's crazy what adrenaline will do once you get on a stage, and you can wear yourself out after one or two songs so quickly. So, and that is definitely a mind thing and also a body thing. So, a lot for me is stretching and things of that sense. Once I get into the swing of a tour, honestly, just playing drums, 3, 4, 5 nights a week for 2 hours is a pretty perfect, great workout. Good cardio, good whatever. So, once I'm into the swing of the tour, that is the majority of my workout. I do have a bike out on the road. I'll go ride as much as I possibly can. But as far as the gym, I did that for a while, and it definitely helps. But for me, it's more of an endurance thing,
right?
And I think that applies to drums very well. And endurance and stretching is huge, in my opinion.
How much? Go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was just going to say, for me, those are the two key things. Those are about the only things I do once I'm in the swing of a tour.
How much do you practice drums on tour? Like, do you have a kit backstage? Do you just play with a pad? Do you play with a pillow? Do you do nothing? Like, what would be kind of your practice routine, if any?
Right. Yeah, honestly, I wish I could say it's more. I should do it more. I'll sit down with a practice pad a few days a week. It's a good thing to do. I don't do it enough. I don't do it as much as I should, to be honest with you. I have a Roland SPD pad, and I do a lot of. I love like building loops. I love building things with music just off of, say, that pad, for instance. So for me, it's a lot of that stuff. Just keeping my mind musically intrigued and in it. So for me, it's a lot of that stuff rather than sitting with a practice pad or things like that. And when you're playing, 4 or 5 nights a week, it's kind of like that can, after a few shows, it becomes your practice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, good point. You mentioned before about mentoring and teaching in that. Who would be maybe one of your mentors at this point in time?
I try to take whatever I can from whoever. Like I said, I love Abe Laborio Jr. I'm always looking to see if he has new videos and things to work on. It's cool, man. Even peers, even people around me. You mentioned Rich Redmond a couple times, guys like that. It's cool to see those guys and see what they're doing. That it kind of push you and inspire you to want to do more. And as far as drumming goes, that's a tough question. I take a lot from. I don't ever really sit down and just watch drummers. I take a lot from music.